What if the reason your life has felt inconsistent isn't confusion, but misinformation? What if you weren't misaligned? You were multifaceted and no one ever showed you how to read yourself. Today isn't about telling you what to do next. It's about helping you understand what your results are actually saying before you try to build anything with them. Welcome back, Kingdom family, to another episode of Kingdom Architects here on this Sabbath evening. I'm B.A. Ingram, and I'm excited to be here with you once again. You know, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and last week, you didn't just learn information, hopefully. You discovered your design. You explored how heaven wired you through your tags, your talent, ability, gifts, and skills. And by now, many of you should have taken the Builder Archetype Assessment. If not electronically, you should have been completing your assignments on paper and ready for that. But here's the problem most people run into. They will get the results, or they will try to interpret the results and immediately try to do something with them before they actually understand them. This is why I'm here tonight, because I want to give you a pause break. Because today is about interpretation, not instruction. I want to help you become clearer on what it is that you're going to be receiving, what it is that you're doing. And so I want to help you interpret those information feedbacks that you've been receiving, because some of you have been emailing me, texting me, posting comments about certain things about your archetype, your primary, your secondary. And I can already tell some of you trying to get off and running. I want you to hold the phone for a minute, all right? And just pause, because you've already been down part of this road once before. And we want you to go down it correctly and not run off half cocked with half information. So before we get into it, let us pray, and then I'm going to jump right on into the lesson this evening. So, Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together in your name with the people. I pray that you give us wisdom, insight, revelation, and understanding, and show us those things that be freely given to us of God the Father through the power of the Holy Spirit and through the blessed Son, Yeshua, Messiah. We give you thanks and praise. Amen. Well, here's what I want to do as we take off here this evening. And if you were in last week's lesson, you understood that we began to help you interpret some of the information that you have been receiving. Some of you already began to respond back to me as to what you feel comfortable in your flow and in your gracing, which is amazing and awesome. So good. Some of you already started moving off into new areas and new ventures. I want you to, kind of proceed with caution in that until you get your completed plan put together. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. And if you joined us in the Kingdom Architect community for the private teaching, then you got a little bit more in depth than what I'm delivering here on the YouTube channel. And so as we get started here this evening, I want to set the framework for what we're going to be doing here tonight. Okay. And so we're going to help you interpret some of the information that you have been receiving, that you have been putting together and framing together in your assessments and in your reflections and in your assignments, because I want you to know what it means before you start building, before you just run off and start trying to do something. I want you to know what this means and what is happening. And so we're going to deal with the core framework beginning tonight, because I want you to understand this clearly, and I want to establish this up front and be very clear in what I'm about to say, because your archetypes are not labels. I want you to understand that your archetypes are not labels. Let's establish this clearly as a foundation, because many people will run off if they misunderstood and misinterpret what they're receiving, because your archetype is not a personality quiz. I want you to understand this. This is not a personality test. It's not a personality quiz. This ain't about you being a type A, B, C, or C type personality. This is deeper than this. This is how God has wired you and intended you to build. All of that goes into that, but that's not the foundation. This is not the personality type. This is your archetype. This is your creative design. And so I want you to understand that, because nor is it a title that you wear. It's not something you're going to walk around telling people, hey, well, I'm a repairer, I'm a builder, I'm a multitasker, I'm this, I'm that, and the next thing. These are things that you're just going to do because this is things that you've already done. And when I get to the point in your assignments a little later on, as I share with you how to frame this into a workable model or workable sentence or workable framework that you can interpret for people or explain to people. For example, if you have an elevated conversation and somebody asks you what you do aside from your work and your job, this is more who you are. So somebody asks you, well, who are you? You can tell them articulately through this as we help you frame this. So I want you to understand it's not some title that you wear, and it's definitely not a box that you're stuck in. This is not something that you're forever going to be. For example, you will always have a primary and a secondary. But as you grow, as you learn, as you mature, as you develop in certain areas, your archetypes will evolve. As I've shared with you my story, mine have over the years, but my primary and secondary have pretty much remained the same. I flowed in and out of others, but my primary and secondary have pretty much remained consistent throughout my life, because your archetype reveals your pattern. It explains how you naturally do things. Your archetype reveals patterns of response, not limits of your identity. So you're not limited by what your primary and secondary reflect now, because depending upon which builder stage you are in life, you are still evolving. If just beginning, then your archetype will still grow and mature. And so you will evolve into other types as you learn more, as you do more, as you develop more. Because the archetypes clearly explain the natural engagement and how you naturally engage problems, how you engage the world around you, where your grace is when it comes under pressure, where you feel graced under pressure. These this is what this explains. It explains best how you do what you do and why you do what you do most times, and how you tend to build when responsibility shows up, when you enter a room, when you enter a new job, when you enter a new area, when you enter a new community, what you tend to gravitate to immediately. This is what your archetype speaks to. This is why this is so important. This is why this goes much deeper than just a personality. This goes into the DNA of who you are and how you were created by God in order to function in the world around you. And so this is about awareness. And this is what I've done throughout these trainings and teachings, is bring awareness to you, not try to assign you something, at least not yet. Because if I begin to assign you something too early, or you try to self assign yourself something too early, you may have to rebuild. And many of you are in that stage in life where you've had to rebuild over time, because what you did not fit. Where you were did not fit. What you tried to accomplish did not work, because you operated outside of having the knowledge that you need to continue on. And so the primary and secondary archetypes are important, because here is what they represent. They represent for you, which most people, when they see the result and receive these results, they just automatically say, oh man, I'm this, and they try to lock on and grab horns and run with that. But there's a lot more that goes into this. This is why I take my time and I want to clearly articulate and explain this to you. And if you're in the private community, you will see I did nearly an hour after this section in the private community, going deeper into the explanations of this for that community. And if you're not a part of that, that's where you need to be, because that's where you're going to get the bulk of what you need on the how. But most of you receive, and you will receive, a primary and a secondary. And that primary and that secondary speaks to how you operate in what domain, or what's your dominant pattern. And here's what that means conceptually. Your primary archetype reflects your dominant pattern, how you dominantly do something, how you most naturally show up, how you do what you do when responsibility falls upon you or tends to fall upon you, how you react to that, what you do with that. Many people shy away and run away from roles of responsibility because they have not been shown and they have not been taught that there is a level of responsibility in them to do certain things. They don't have to run from things, they have to shy away from things. And your secondary archetype is important because it supports that primary role. It's how your primary role is supported. And so it comes alongside and supports you in the areas when you need help most, where it needs to show up. It helps you how to adapt under pressure. It is the support system that helps you adapt when you're under pressure, because your primary may fold under pressure, but your secondary supports you under that pressure. It also speaks to how your design expresses range or expresses itself in doing what it does. And this is important because it's not confusion, or it's not about confusion or being confused, because you may have been confused up until now. But I'm hoping to bring clarity. This is why doing your reflection assignments and doing your exercises, many of you may have found yourself saying, this is true for me. When you were going through your results, or you're getting your results, you were writing them down on paper, you begin to realize that both of these, the primary and the secondary, you feel them. You can identify with them. They have now become clearer for you. And that's not a flaw in you. That's design at its depth. That's someplace you haven't been before. That's an area that hadn't been identified in you before. So it may be new for some of you. It may be a reawakening for others of you. For some of you, it may just be a further clarification for you. And that's okay. That's wonderful. That is where you are. And you will see throughout the assignments and assessments, I continually say, be honest. Be honest with your answers. Be honest with your response of where you are now. Not where you want to be, not where you're going, where you are now. Because if you're honest with yourself where you are now, then what you're receiving will begin to bring awakening and enlightenment for you. And that's why some of the results that you've had, or some of the results that you've gotten so far, have seemed surprising to many of you. And to others, it may have felt just quite familiar. And that's a good thing. For some of you, the results have become very obvious. You can just immediately say, yes, I knew that about myself, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. Just really couldn't, you know, talk about it or understand it. For others of you, they were unexpected, even uncomfortable. Some of you, it may have brought you to an uncomfortable place to where now you have to acknowledge what you've been running from all of these years. Acknowledge what you have been fearful and afraid to step in and walk in and live out all of these years. And the reason this happens, it happens for a couple of reasons. One, it happens because you've been operating just merely in survival mode, not by design. You've just been functioning on going to work, doing your job, doing your routine, making some money, paying some bills, doing a few activities, living life. You've just been stuck in that mode, and you haven't really learned how you're best designed to operate. So life for you at this point may have been dreadful or drudgeful, and not very exciting. For others of you, it may have been, but now it's going to become even more exciting. You've been building from skill. Many of us started out just on our skill, not our identity, what we could do very well. We just ran off with that. Man, I got this talent. I got this ability. I got this skill. I'm just going to run off and just do this thing, make as much money as I can, make it happen. But then we got to a point and place in our life where what? Things fell flat because it wasn't about the money anymore. Wasn't about the dream job anymore. Wasn't about the dream house, the dream car. We got all that, but then life still felt unfulfilling, unsatisfied, because we didn't build from identity. We just built from skill. And when we no longer wanted to perform and be in performance mode, life for us began to take a turn in another direction. It also happened because you're fulfilling needs and not assignment. You've just been doing your basic needs. Hey, I got to work. I got to make some money. I got to take care of the family. I got to pay the bills. I got to take care of the house and buy the car and all that kind of stuff. You've just been going based upon needs and not what your assignment is. And the assessment didn't expose weaknesses in these areas. It reveals where grace actually flows. And this is the important part. It has revealed to you now in areas to where you can flow in grace. You can do it. It revealed where grace is flowing and moving through you. Someone posted in the comments where they feel most grace that when they're teaching. I'm the same. I feel most grace when I'm teaching. I'm at comfort. I'm at home. Not necessarily I like being on camera, but I like teaching. I like explaining. I like going into depth. I like detailed information. I like helping people come to answers, problems that problems and bringing solutions to them. I feel at home in that place. You give me a room with some people with some problems, man, I'm working that room. I'm at home in that place. Some of you now have revealed where that grace is flowing from you and where you feel most comfortable, what you feel most comfortable doing. And that's been the purpose of these assignments. That's been the purpose of getting you to this point up until now, getting you here so that you can now begin to function and to operate. Is that making sense? Because the idea I want to introduce to you now is what's called our builder pattern clusters. Because as we bring this information all together and begin to cluster it or package it up for you, not the mechanics yet, we're not teaching you how to operate in it yet. We're still forming, we're still framing, we're still architecting before we get to building. We can't run off and just start building yet. We still got some work that we have to do in the foundation to make sure we're clear, to make sure the pathway is clear, to make sure the direction is clear, to make sure we know where we're going. So when we do start building, we don't have to tear down and build again. One of the conversations Melissa and I was having a couple of weeks ago about people who are at this juncture in their life who are having to rebuild their life again because they didn't build it correctly on the right foundation. And many are falling off and faltering because they ran out of strength to be able to build. And the Bible tells us that there's a day coming to where we would have to gallop and run fast because time would be moving fast and swiftly. But if we couldn't keep up when times were slow in the walking stages, it's going to be very difficult to keep up in the time when it's time to move quickly and move fast. And this is where people are finding themselves. Now that things have sped up and moving fast, and they find themselves having to go back and reframe and reform and redo and repattern their lives. They're running out of gas. They're running out of steam. They're running out of joy. They're running out of peace. They can't seem to keep it up and catch up because they didn't put the work in correctly. My job at this stage of life and at this stage helping many of you is so that you don't have to do this again. You don't want to wait until you're 50 and 60 and 70 and have to go back and rebuild it. We want to catch it early as possible now that you're here so that we can help you frame it correctly, structure it correctly, pattern it correctly so that you can build and build completely and build thoroughly the way they should. Is this making sense to anybody? I hope that it is. Let's continue. So I want to introduce the idea of the builder pattern cluster. And the builder pattern cluster is simply this. Again, this is not the mechanics yet. This is not teaching you how to work and how to do yet. Okay, we're going to get there. Because most people don't build from a single archetype in isolation. No builder builds anything in isolation. It takes a company and a team of other strategists and technicians and tradesmen to come along and build that building. And so this is what all of this is coming together for you. All of your tags, your talents, your abilities, your gifts and skills. There are all the other service providers that you need, so to speak, in order to begin building your life the way that it should. And then you can build from a pattern because now you've taken the time to lay out the blueprint. So now you know how to build because your primary and secondary together, they form what we call builder pattern cluster. They come together and they are the recurring way. They are the recurring way that of how you approach things, how you approach problems, how you approach people, how you approach responsibility. They demonstrate what you have already in you to be able to accomplish these things. You don't need any more coming from the outside. It's already in you. Trust me. If you work with me and you go through the process and you do what I'm saying, you're going to understand how this comes together and work. Now, if you're outside trying to do it on your own and figure it out on your own, you're going to struggle. I'm not going to lie. This is designed to be that way because life is designed in such a way to where you got to get in it to win it. You can't be on the outside and be a spectator and just expect it to happen. You got to put in the work. You got to get engaged. You got to get involved. You got to make it happen. This is why all of the exercises, all the assignments, all the mapping that I'm having you do is the work that is necessary to complete the building when we start building. Because we're not mapping just for today. We're mapping for the rest of your life. And it's important that you know this. It's important that you know how this exists and why, because this explains your why. When you understand this, your why becomes clear. You respond differently in different seasons. You know how to operate, regardless of what the season of your life is, regardless of what's happening in that season of your life. You know what to do. You know how to operate in it. You know how to shift and move forward. You know what to do when you feel tension, even when you're fluctuating between roles, between responsibilities, between groups of people. You can flow effortlessly and gracefully because your grace gift kicks in when it's needed to help you move and flow thoroughly and throughout. Here's how I've been able throughout the years to flow in and out of all types of groups and all types of networks and all types of this, regardless of what the people are, regardless of what the people were doing. My grace gifts allowed me to flow in and out among them, even when I disagreed, even when we didn't have a whole lot in common. We worked on what we did, even when it was points of contention and tension, didn't matter. Because you've outgrown your old labels, you've outgrown your old patterns, you've outgrown what you have existed in up until now. Here's why you're feeling some of the things that you're feeling. Here's why you're feeling some of the strains that you're feeling. Here's why you're feeling some of the stretching and the pulling that you're feeling. Because life now for you is changing and shifting because you have changed and shifted. You no longer fit into the pattern and then the mold of yesterday. It doesn't fit you anymore. What parents told you to be, what society dictated that you be, what networks and people try to put upon you to be. You're no longer fitting in those patterns and fitting in those molds. And so therefore now life is pulling you in the direction you should have always been going all along. Are you with me? And here is how your tags, your talents, abilities, gifts, and skills help refine your primary and secondary archetype. They are the tools in the bag that help you do what it is that you do and do it with grace and do it with completeness. And so how the tags fit in here? And the concept of this is simple. Your archetype tells you how you tend to build. Your tags profile tells you what fuels that building. Are you getting me? Because your primary archetype tells you what type you are, how you are structured to build. But it is your tags, the strengthening areas that come along that tells you and gives you the fuel that you need to do it. It is your talents, it is your abilities, it is your gifts, it is your skills that fuel you to do what it is you do. And talent reveals your design. Talent reveals your design, what is in your hand to do, how is in your hand to do it. Your ability reveals your discipline in doing it. We talked about this in the last lesson. And gifts reveal your power, the power that you have to get it done. And it's God's power. It's God's power through his gifting to get it done. And skills is the area of execution. Skills reveal how you get it done. It shows up and you get it done, and how well you get it done. And when these align with your archetypes, building feels lighter, building feels graceful, building feels complete. You can now build structurally. You can now do what it is that you do with grace and with peace and with joy and with fulfillment. But when they don't align, and you don't know what they are or how to use them, building feels forced. It feels exhausting. It feels incomplete. It feels frustrating because you don't know what to do with all of the stuff that's inside you. You don't know how to use it. You don't know when to use it. You don't know where best to use it. And so you're doing things in life that seem to be disconnected, that seems to be disjointed. And this is why I'm here. We will connect these dots, not just here, but as we work together. Some of us will have to work together privately because you need a little bit more help. You may not be able to understand everything that I've given to you, may not be one of your strong suits in order to interpret a lot of information on paper. You may need a little more hand holding, and that's fine. Everybody works at a different pace, learns at a different place, grows at a different pace. But I'm here to help you wherever you are if you allow that to happen. If you allow me to. If you decide to go off on your own and do this on your own, then you're left to your own devices. And this is why I want to caution you. I want to heavily caution you right now at this point why you shouldn't build yet, why you shouldn't start or attempt to just run off with the information that you have right now and start shotgunning it, blasting it wherever, and not have a clear target. Here's my caution, and this is critical, and this is very important, because I don't want you to rush into trying to develop and build a strategy without having all of the information that you need in order to do so. And right now, it's incomplete, especially if you haven't begun the journey of blueprinting at all, and you've just been watching the teachings, watching the videos, going through them. If you haven't started interpreting any of this information, if you haven't put anything down on paper, if you haven't presented anything to me to help you with, if you rush into a strategy and start trying to do, I can guarantee you're going to make shipwreck before long. You're going to wind back in the same place you've been, frustrated, disjointed, disconnected, discombobulated, confused about who you are, why you're here, and what you're here to do. You need help. And this is not a pitch for you to come to me, but I'm just saying you're going to need my help. You will. So I don't want you to just rush into some ministry, rush into some business idea, rush into creating something, rush into forming something, because you will. You will have a tendency to try to run off with what you know limitedly and try to do that. I don't want you to do any of that, not just yet. Why? Why am I saying this? I can say this because I've been there. When I first started finding all of this out, understanding all of this, going through all of this, I wanted to just run out there and start doing it. And I did. I ran out and just start doing, start operating, start creating businesses and plans and doing stuff and jumping on it. And I had failure after failure. I had head knock up against the wall. I had doors slam in my face time and time again because I didn't have the complete picture. I was missing something, and I want to give it to you. Clarity must come before construction. If you're not clear on what you're building and you start building, you will get to a point in the building phase to where you'll have to stop and redo. You have to stop, turn around, and go back and start again. You may have to stop, tear down, and start again. How many of you can identify with that? I know I can. Started a project, didn't have all the information, just ran off, didn't read all the instructions, didn't get clarity, just ran off and do it, and got down missing something, didn't do something, forgot to do something, left out something, had to go back and do it again. And how many of you know we don't have that kind of time? Many of us are getting to the point in age, in this earth, to where time is expiring. And it doesn't have to necessarily be an age. You can still be a young person and your time be expiring, depending upon how you're living. Because none of us know the day or the hour when our clock is going to strike. And so clarity must come before construction. And this is why these areas have been so important. Because this part of week 4C is about recognition. I want you to recognize where you are. And if you join me in part 2 in the private community, you will understand that it's about learning now how to start mapping your archetypes to your tags. Start mapping your archetypes to your tags and then to your callings, to your areas of gifting and gracing and calling, so that you begin now to know when you move, where best to move, how best to move, what arenas to best to move in. As I said last time, I didn't leave any of this to chance. I guide you down a path to certain areas, to certain industries, to certain things to where your primary and secondary archetypes and strengths lie and where you will operate best in. And this is what has helped me through successful career after career after career, because when I understood where my talents, abilities, gifts, and skills lie best, I went to work in those arenas. I went to work in those fields, and I raised up to the top of those fields, became the best in every area that I worked in. Why? Because I was in the right place, doing the right thing, because I had the right stuff. And that's what I want for you, because this is about activation, not just instruction. I'm not just here to just give you some simple instruction and then send you off. I want to activate you so that you now know how to operate in the next phase of your life. For many of you, this assessment isn't just giving you something new. It's showing you and demonstrating for you for the very first time who you are. It's named what's been true for you all along. And that's a wonderful thing. If I could come along now and finally name what's true in you after so many years of failure, of missing it, how wonderful would that be? I wish someone like me was around many years ago to help the light bulb come on in my life. Would have saved me a whole lot of years of challenge and anger and frustration. However, I don't regret that journey, because then I wouldn't be here sharing this with you today, because I have lived through it. I have walked through it. I have learned through it. I have grown through it. I have accomplished through it, because you weren't inconsistent in your previous operation. You just didn't know. You weren't scattered. You just had no clear direction. You weren't unstable or crazy. You just were unclear. And that's important to know. And that's important to understand, because you were architected with a range and with a design before you got here. You didn't know it. And there was nobody to point you in that area. No one to demonstrate for you what that looked like. And unbeknownst to many of us, we did not take the example of the Messiah as we should have and learn from his pattern, learn from his life, learn how the Father had created him for a specific assignment at a specific time, to work with a specific people, to do a specific thing. And he didn't deviate from that. He already laid out for us that pattern. You just didn't know how. You were never shown how. And the models that were before you, many of them were inconsistent in theirs. And for many, we didn't follow the consistent one long enough and complete enough to learn enough. Is that making sense? Because I know for me, had I met the Messiah years ago, and I met him young, so I may have had an advantage more so than many of you. I was in my 20s when I came to know the Messiah, but I still had a long road ahead of me of confusion and misunderstanding, because I had so much in me that no one could interpret. I had pastors who didn't know what to do with me, so they just relegated me off to just work like a horse and work like a dog. I mean, I was the workhorse because I could do things and I could do things well. So that they just let me do things, but they didn't help me interpret nothing that was in me, mature nothing. It wasn't for years later that I finally come along with a man who began to help me tap in to the hidden and deeper things that lived on the inside of me. And even he didn't know what to do with me at times, because my wiring was so unique and so different. He would have to confess, I don't know what to do with you, B. I just got to leave it up to you and God and your devices. And he would give me guardrails to keep me safe, but just let me go off on my own devices, because he didn't know. And I couldn't blame him for that. I couldn't fault him for that. My parents didn't know what to do with me. My teachers didn't know what to do with me. They put me in special ed class because they thought I needed special education. I rode the yellow bus couple years. I was in special ed class a couple of years because they didn't know what to do with me. And back then, if they had Adderall and all that kind of stuff, they would have been giving it to me, because I was super active. I was super hyper. You can keep me in assignment in a lesson. I knocked that out, ready for the next one. I was always weeks ahead in every class and every work that I did. Teachers didn't know what to do with me. They just said, man, just get the work done, and we just pass it on. But at some point, I had to figure all that out and find all that out. And thank God for his spirit. Thank God that he was graceful to help me to understand it. So I'm here to help many of you understand it as well. And so as I bring this in, I want to give you a clear assignment, because I want to help you understand. If you're trying to interpret your results alone, I'm guaranteeing you, here's what's going to happen. You're going to oversimplify them, because you're going to treat them common. And I want to caution you, this is not common. This is not common knowledge. This is not common function. This is not common calling. You got people out here who've been walking with the Lord for a long time, don't know this, don't understand this. This is not common. This is not happening everywhere. And I don't want you to oversimplify and treat this as common. I don't want you to misapply them. I don't want you to misunderstand how to use them. I don't want you to build prematurely, because you will if you just run off. But the Kingdom Architect community is where the interpretation will begin to happen for you and bring clarity. I'm not doing that out here YouTube. I can't spend the kind of time and hours, because I don't have you to be able to do that. This is a totally different platform. In the private community, we can work one-on-one. We can work in small groups. We can make it happen. But if you're looking for me to do all that interpretation out here for you and speak to the camera and say somebody out there and guess, not doing that. Not doing that. That's too general. That's unspecific. That's not dedicated and committed enough. You need, at this point of your life, some direct intervention and some direct guidance. And that's where we come in the community. That's where the mapping takes place. That's where we map your identity to your assignment. I will help you clearly map that out. No more guessing. I will walk you through how to activate that. We have maps, and when I show you the maps and how to start mapping things out, it becomes clear. I'll help you interpret your primary and second day together as far as how they work and how they best work. I will help you build your identity profile so you can be able to articulate with a one sentence, here is who I am, what I do, how I do it, who I do it for, and how long I'm doing it. That clear. And we will prepare for you all that you're going to need going into week 5, so that you can begin framing and start building. Because framing becomes, before you put any doors and any walls, you got in the roof, you got to frame it first. So we're going to help you frame all of this into a workable framework, so that you can now begin to go to work. I want you to bring your results into the community, because that's where the how is happening. That's where the how is taking place. I'm going to take all the information that you've done, all the stuff that you've written down, and I'm going to interpret the how for you. So in closing, because I'm out, I got to go teach for another hour the details and give the nitty gritty. I want to leave you with this. Your results were never meant to give you direction by themselves. Got to understand it, because you run off and just start trying to do. However, they were meant to give you clarity. And if you allow me, the clarity that you need will be amazing. This means that clarity only works when it's processed, not just noticed. You can't notice you need clarity and then don't go get the clarity. Clarity only becomes clear when it's processed, when you walk through it, when you work through it, when you do the work. That means right now, your assignment is not to just start building something new, not to just start doing something new, not to just jump off into some new venture because you got a little information, but it's to complete your blueprinting. It is to complete your assignments. It is complete the foundational work that you need. That means finishing your identity work. Because if you don't finish the foundation identity work, then what we feed into the system doesn't produce what we need it to produce. It means reviewing your archetype results slowly and articulately, and I will help you do that. It means resisting the urge to just turn insight into action too soon, because that's often what we have a tendency to do. We get a little insight, We get a little information because we watched the video, we've listened to a video, we've heard somebody give us some information, and we just run off and we just start trying to activate that as soon as possible. We're excited. And oftentimes we got just barely enough information to be dangerous. Because every time we skip blueprinting, every time we skip the foundational work in our life, we end up repairing and rebuilding what we could have done right the first time. I'm a living witness. Every time I rush into anything without first blueprinting it out, laying it out, designing it out, I run into problems later that I got to come back and rebuild. And as a technologist, that is one of the worst things you want to do, because that is a waste of time. When I could have just took a little more time, thought it out a little more clearly, laid it out a little more clearly. So when I started building, I could build correctly, didn't have to come back and repeat the whole cycle and the whole process again, tear it all down and rebuild it back up. That is the frustration part. And this is exactly why the Kingdom Architect community exists. This is why I set up a private community, just for this reason, because I wanted people to have a place where they can come and get this and do this. Because inside the community, we're not just talking about the archetypes. We're mapping our identities to the assignment that they have, to the assignment they've been given by God, to the responsibility He has assigned them and how He's assigned them to operate. And that's where we interpret your primary and secondary together. We walk you through the activation of that. We identify your pressure points. We identify and design your strengths. We help you overcome the areas of weakness and build them up so that you become strong in those. And we help you write your blueprint identity profile. That's important. That work does not belong here on YouTube for a lot of reasons. It belongs in a space where clarity can be formed without pressure and without performance. I'm not here to perform. I'm not here to function under pressure, just trying to give out something and to do this. I'm here to help people who want to move to the next level in their life, and they want to operate and maintain there for the rest of their life and function the way God has intended them to. And if that's you, then I'm here to help you. And so before we move forward, I want you to do this, and I'm almost out. I want you to complete your blueprinting if you haven't already. I can't stress this enough. I can't stress this enough, how important this is. Go to the blueprint link, download the blueprint, and start there first. Because if you don't start there and you try to jump right on in to the architect phase, you're going to have trouble, because you're not going to understand what we're doing at that level, because you haven't done the pre-work. Can't stress this enough. Because once you've done that blueprint, you're going to bring that over to the community. And there you're going to find a plethora of next steps to do methodically as we walk you through. And I'm there every week, every Sunday night, 9 p.m. I am there helping, interpreting, giving more information, giving more instruction, demonstrating, showing, bringing clarity. That's where it's happening. That's where it's taking place. If you come there and if you show up there, you're going to get what it is that you need to move from where you are to where you need to be. And in part 2 of this lesson, even tonight that's happening, I'm going over to the community because I'm going to do some more design work so that we can move from here, from being theoretical to start being usable, because that's what we want. We want you to move from a place in your life to where you're just operating by theory. Well, I think I'm supposed to do this. Well, I feel like this. Well, I sense this, and I got a little unctioning to do this or to do the next thing. We want you to move from all of that unclearness and move into a place of clarity. I know I'm supposed to be doing this, and here's where I'm supposed to be doing it with. And these are the type of people or communities I'm supposed to be working with. I want you to be clear at this juncture of life, because builders don't rush. They build according to pattern. And if you're going to build according to pattern, then you're going to need to operate according to how builders build. So I hope to see you inside. I hope to see you soon. I hope to see you on the other side. And I want you to remember this in closing. Obedience flows from alignment, and clarity always precedes construction. You can't build anything unless you know what you're building and how it's to be built. Okay? Listen, I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope that this has helped you in some way. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below the video. Here, I'm bouncing over to our private community for part 2 so I can go into the depth of what I delivered to you, because that's the how of where we make it happen. And if you want to be a part of that, I've already shared the links with you. You can go back to that place in the video and click on those links, or click in the description down below this video, and it will guide you and point you what you need to do next and where you need to go, and give you clear instructions. But I hope that I've been helpful and useful. And as always, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you and grant unto you his peace. Until next time, may you watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Take care, God bless, and bye for now.